guys, it's me, Crystal from Marching North. Today I'm going to show you how to make this super simple hat using a knitting loom. This is the knitting loom I'll be using, and it is a 48 peg knitting loom. This one works best with bulky yarn, and I'll put a link down in the description to the exact one I have if you're interested in getting one. You'll need one of these looms and the little hook that comes with it, and you'll also need some bulky weight yarn. Here I have some I got from Hobbies website, but any bulky weight yarn will do. Like this yarn is Bernat Softy Chunky, and that one works really good too. Any chunky yarn will work for this. Okay, let's get started. So grab your knitting loom, and this is the same one I was showing you just a second ago. It is a 48 peg and 5/8 inch gauge knitting loom. And this is a little hook that comes with it, so you're going to need that as well. And then I also have some stitch markers here. That's handy to mark your first stitch, but you could use even just a piece of tape there. Whatever you have is fine. So here's my chunky yarn. I'm just grabbing it and we're going to make a slip knot. So you wrap it around your fingers and then take the long end and you're going to loop it up through the little loop you made with your fingers. Then let it off your fingers and grab both sides and pull to tighten up the knot. And then you pull the long side to make the knot smaller, or the loop smaller. Then we're going to put that over our first peg that we've marked with the stitch marker and tighten it up. Now you're going to take the long end of the yarn and you're going to go behind the next peg to the right and then loop it around. This is called the E-wrap, and we're going to E-wrap around every peg until you get back to the beginning. Don't pull your yarn too tight. You want it to not have any slack, but you don't want to pull it super duper tight or it'll be really hard to pull your loops up over the top. Once you get back to the beginning, you're just going to hold that yarn so nothing comes off of your pegs and push all the loops down to the bottom of the peg. Now we're going to wrap again another row right above the first row. So same thing, and you're going to go all the way around until you get back to the beginning. Alright, now we're back at the beginning, so we're going to take our little hook and we're going to bring the bottom loop over the top loop. So just insert it in a little groove and hook it, and then you just pull it up over and you can push this little loop down so it's ready for the next row. You're just going to repeat that all the way around until you get back to the beginning. Now we've done our first row, or our cast on row, and it's time to do the next. You're going to make 20 rows all together before we fold up the brim. So just continue E-wrapping until you have 20 rows completed, and then I'll show you what to do next. Once you get your first 20 rows done, this is how it will look. And now we're going to fold it up to form the brim. So you're going to find your first row of stitches and you're going to have the little knot at the bottom. Make sure you're on the right row. You see the loop to the left of your knot? That's what you're going to loop up over the first peg. So bring it up and over, and you're just going to take that little bottom loop right there, and you're going to stick it right on that first peg. And if you do that, it'll be easy to line up the rest. Then you take the next loop to the left, and you're going to put it on the next peg to the left, and then the next loop goes on the next peg. And you just repeat that going all the way around until you have all the loops on the pegs. If you line it up with that first one at the beginning, it's really easy to make sure they're on the correct pegs. So just do that all the way around, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, now I have all the loops on the pegs, so what we're going to do is just bring the bottom loop up over the top loop, just like we normally do, and that's going to form your brim. Just repeat that all the way around, and then we will continue on with our knitting. Now that you have your brim knitted on, it's time to do 10 more rows, just E-wrapping and knitting over, and then we will change colors. Okay, I've completed 10 rows, and now I'm going to switch to this other color here, this blue. It's color 32 from Hobby. So to do this, you're just going to cut your yarn with leaving a few inches there for a tail. Take your next piece of yarn and just hold it next to that tail. I just kind of held them together. And then you're just going to start wrapping around the first peg, just like we normally do, just holding the tail of your new yarn there so it doesn't come off. Then just wrap all the way around with your new color. And then when you get up here to the beginning, you're just going to hold everything in place the best you can. And then you're going to knit a few rows off here to hold it kind of securely, and then we're going to knot the ends. I knitted off 5 stitches, and then I went back and tied the 2 ends together and just tried to pull it pretty snug. I actually did go back and tighten this after I knitted a couple of rows. Now you're going to continue knitting around for 10 more rows. Alright, 10 more rows are completed, and now it's time to finish off our hat. So now you're going to grab a large eye needle, and you're going to wrap your yarn around the loom 2 times. Really, you could do it 1.5 times. 2 times is a bit overkill, but I just didn't want to run out of yarn. So do that, and then just cut your yarn right there. So at least 1.5 wraps around the loom. Then you're going to thread the end of the yarn into your yarn needle. And you're going to start on the first peg and bring the yarn needle up, under, and through the loop. Thread it through, and then you're going to pull that loop off of the peg. Continue that with each peg going all the way around to the right until you get all the way back to the beginning and all the loops are off of the pegs. You can see making the yarn 2 wraps around the loom long was kind of unruly and made it a little difficult for this part, so I definitely recommend doing it a bit shorter and just sticking with maybe 1.5 wraps. Once you get all the loops off of your loom, set the loom aside. And then we're going to cinch up the top of the hat. So you're just going to pull on the one end until it closes the hole most of the way up. The hole on my hat didn't quite close all the way up, but I will show you how to fix that. Thread the needle through the hole to the other side. So then I turn it inside out, and I'm just running the needle under a few stitches all the way around the hole so that I can cinch it up a little bit tighter. Once you get back to where you started, just loop your needle through and make a knot to secure everything in place. I pulled on it really tightly before I tied the knot to make sure it was really snug. And then just make a knot there. And then you'll see there's still a bit of a hole. So I'll show you how I fixed that. I just went across, straight across from where my yarn is coming out, and I threaded it under a few of the stitches. I pulled it tight, and then I went from there. I went over on the other side, and I'm making like a cross in the center of the hole. So I just went under a couple stitches there, and then I went across, and I went under a couple stitches over here. And then just pull it really tight, and then you're going to tie a knot here again, just like we did a second ago. Make sure you're holding it nice and tight whenever you pull the knot. And then I tied another knot just to be safe. And then you're going to thread the end down through a few of the stitches to weave the end in, and then trim off the excess. Then you're going to go around to all the other loose ends, like this one here by the brim, and just weave them in where they can't be seen. Trim off all the ends. And then it's time to flip your hat right side out, and your hat is complete. You can add a pom-pom to the top of your hat if you want, and I'll link to a couple tutorials showing you how to do that. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching!